Welcome, everyone,
Hi, this is Matthew.
and Erva, and we want to invite you to settle in for another segment. And at this point, just breathe. There's nothing that you have to do right now. There's no place that you have to be. Get yourself comfortable wherever you're seated. Let your shoulders relax. Take in a deep breath. Close your eyes if it's comfortable. Let your breath out just very easily and very gently. And we're going to spend a few moments relaxing our bodies and enjoying the breathing in and out. Deep breaths. If you want to make a little sigh on your exhalation, that's fine. If you want to breathe in and make a bigger sigh on your exhalation, just breathe out all sorts of tension. And let your body start to settle even more wherever you are right now. Feeling your body, feeling the subtle movements of your body with its breathing. And just take a few minutes to enjoy that. A moment of respite, a moment of not having to do anything except breathe. And any thoughts that go by, let them float by like clouds. You can observe, but there's nothing you have to do as those clouds float by. Return to your breathing. Breathing in even more relaxation. Letting go of even more tightness. And if you notice some tension in your body, let yourself stretch a bit. Perhaps your shoulders, perhaps your neck. Let your thighs relax. Let your arms relax. In this moment, there is nothing that you have to do, no place that you have to be, nothing that you have to solve. Take this time to just be. And let's take another deep breath all together, starting to let your awareness come back to this time, to this place, wherever you are. Let your eyes open gently. slowly. Take another deep breath before coming fully back into the here and now. Let yourself relish that sense of relaxation. And welcome back. My name is Erva Baden. I'm one of the facilitators for this, along with my co-conspirator facilitator.
And my name's Matthew Armstead. And I feel really grateful to be here with you through whatever is happening in your life in this moment, whether that is a day of tech challenges or not. And I just want to say an explicit welcome also from Pendle Hill, which has hosted this session and made this one and a prior one available on YouTube. And so if you're curious about that first one, we'll have a link in the description so you can go back to that one. We'll be building on it some here. And if you're just here and you want to stay here, that is also okay. I'll pass it back to you, Erva.
So how y'all been doing in this chaos that's going on? That's why we're here today, to see how is it that we manage, move through, deal with, ignore, engage with chaos. And one of the things that I have found in at least doing these sessions is that chaos is everywhere. To some extent, chaos is everywhere. Chaos is part of the natural world. There are some origin stories and myths that say that the earth was created out of chaos. That's an interesting theory, because right now I'd like to know, well, what are we creating out of this chaos that the earth is in right now? But we'll come to that a bit later. One of the things that I'm reminded of when I think about chaos is in ancient mythology, the story of Pandora. So in Greek mythology, Pandora, she's getting married to this guy. These are all like big wigs, you know, in mythology, different Greek gods and whatnot. But Pandora gets this box as a gift from one of the real higher ups. Interestingly enough, there's probably an ulterior motive because for her getting this box, because she's told, here's this lovely box, my dear, but don't open it. Well, she's like, what do you mean don't open it? No, just a nice box, enjoy it, don't open it. Okay, so how long did that last? Let's tell the truth, not too long. Pandora looks at the box, thinks, well, can I just pull just the lid open a tiny, tiny bit? Doesn't work that way. First crack, the lid flies back, and what comes out? All manner of stuff. I would use another word, but I'm going to try to be good. All manner of crap comes out. Basically, all the evil things in the world have been locked in this box, and now Pandora has let loose what I would consider massive chaos into the world. And so the story goes that, you know, she's just there, she's like lamenting all this, and there's war, there's famine, there's all kinds of illness, there's, you know, interpersonal chaos, there's governmental chaos, there's chaos just everywhere. And so she's trying to get the box closed before anything else can come out, and she notices that it won't close really good. And she gets down like real close to the lid to look at it, and there's this small gem-like thing. It's tiny, but it's shining. It's bright. It's emanating some sort of ray. And for some reason, Pandora recognizes this as hope and keeps it. She holds it fast in the box so that the world can actually have hope in the midst of all this chaos. Take a breath for a minute and just think about that. Think about how much you believe it or how much you don't believe it. But what I'd really like you to consider is, can you find hope in the chaos that's happening right now? Just take a breath. Matthew?
Yeah.
When you're ready.
And on that note, I just want to invite you, as you're thinking, can I find hope? Just think about, well, how are you relating to the chaos that you're present with right now? I'm gonna pull up an image right now of a spectrum. So this image shows a spectrum with a question. How are you relating to the chaos in the world today? And we have this scale of 1 being fully lost in the winds and the storm of chaos at this point. And we have on the other end of this spectrum real clarity about the choices in front of you in the midst of this chaos. I just invite you now to pause and think, where am I in the chaos in the world right now? How are you feeling? And write that down. You can write down you can write down a number. And I just also, as you say, like 1 through 5, invite you to say a sentence or write a sentence for yourself about why or what you notice that helps you get that data. For being a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in this spectrum. And as you write and choose, I want to invite you to also think about, well, how have you been in past chaos? How have you navigated through past chaos? I'm going to stop the image for a moment and just talk directly to you. And I really want to invite you to think about, well, how have you survived other chaoses in the world, or even thrived in the middle of it? Like, we as people of color, as Black people, as Indigenous people, as people of Asian descent, of Latinx descent, of people from islands, for those of us who live with mixed heritage, like, I want to welcome you and welcome the tradition that you come from, the history, not just tradition, the history that you come from, of people of color surviving in the midst of chaos and often thriving through the full storm. Not at every moment necessarily, but many have survived. And so I just wanted to invite you to think about, well, what are tools you've used to survive chaoses in your own life? What have you done? Like, for me, for instance, one thing I've done in very simple chaos of like mass protests or events where there are large crowds, in that kind of chaos, I get to high ground. It's a tool I have. I'm a pretty tall person. I find my way to high ground very quickly to just get a scan of what's going on. Or even when in the uprisings of 2020, the ones that I'm living in this moment right now, I couldn't get to high ground in my neighborhood too well to see what was happening, but I could still get that sense of a scan in the chaos by checking in with people at different areas, checking out the news, and then pausing to assess the data. Another thing I use very often in chaos is prayer. I return to prayer, whether that is just a silent prayer or that prayer is full of words, as a way for me to let go of what I'm not in control of in the chaos. which is very counter to my Black middle class training that tells me I need to be in control of a circumstance. That's part of how I can survive. And so I use that prayer to remind me to let go. And I find I'm much more able to navigate the chaos. What do you do, Erva?
I eat chocolate. Come on, people, let's tell the truth. Let's just tell the truth. I eat chocolate. That's not really such a good idea because the bigger the chaos, the more chocolate one might consume. There are other things that I've learned throughout my life other than just eating chocolate. Meditation is actually one of them, which is fairly newfound for me, to be able to go to that quiet, still place, similar to the breathing exercise that we did, to be with my body and just relax and let myself be for minutes, several minutes at a time, or even just for a nanosecond. If all I can do is just take a deep breath, let it go, and see if I can return myself to some sort of calmness. One of the other things that comes to mind is that in some actual chaotic instances that I've experienced, I found that I could call on friends. And I can't describe it, but it's or I have a hard time describing it. It's like I can call on friends to either come and be with me physically, or I can call them on the phone or email them or whatever, but I can create almost a virtual, if not real, surrounding of friends that I can sit with. I might talk about what's going on and they might offer suggestions. I might just cry on the phone, in person, whatever. But there's a way in which I actually feel held, I think energetically. And that has done wonders for me in some very chaotic times in my adult life.
So I just invite you, listener, human, one who has come to be with us today, to write down what are some of the tools you've used in chaos that can be global, or the chaos that is a 2-year-old having a meltdown in front of you. What are tools that you use in chaos? And we'll just give you a minute there to just think about what are some tools you've used.
And don't censor yourself too much.
Totally. All right. Let's start to wrap up, and if you don't feel ready, just pause the video so you can finish answering those questions. And at any point along the way, do use the pause button to help you actually be able to finish your reflections that you're in. And if we feel like there's a reason to not wait, we'll let you know beforehand. All right. So next up, what we're going to do is to think about, well, what are other ways that people of color have survived chaos? Like there's a way we can just say, oh yeah, people of color have done it, but we're in the middle of it. It can be hard to remember. And so we want to do a little bit of time traveling to visit other areas. I'm going to share an image on the screen for a moment as I talk with you. Just to think a little bit about time. Like what we're going to do is we're going to do a little reflection. And during this, you can sit where you are, stare at the screen, you can zone out, you can close your eyes, you can draw, you can do whatever you wish. But Erva and I are gonna take you on a little journey across time. And much like time, we're not gonna stay too linear. we're going to bounce around in our little time machine to see different moments across time, to get to be a little more present with people across time. All right, you ready? I can't hear your voice, and you may have only nodded. So I'm gonna ask, are you ready? And if you can respond, even if it feels weird, I would welcome your response. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So, time to time travel. All right, the first place I want to take us to on this journey across time is to the 1840s. It's a place I go back to in time because it's a place that's connected for me personally. And so, when my great-great-grandmother, Tania Coleman, was alive in Virginia, and she was enslaved in the US. And Tania had already had a number of children at that point, and she did not see any end to the slavery that she knew and the back-breaking tobacco work that she did year-round. And so at some point, she had a baby. She had another child, and she had already had children sold off and abused in front of her. And so when her last child was born, what she chose to do was to end that child's life. Because that was a way, in the midst of the chaos and the psychological abuse of slavery that made her unable to feel like she could make so many choices in her life, that was a choice she could make for her well-being and what she believed was the well-being of her family. And it was her way of making an intervention in a system that kept grinding out Black body after Black body. And so in the 1840s, in the midst of chaos and slavery, she took action and found a bit of agency and made sure to share that story across generations. Okay, next moment in time. Take a breath. Soak that in before we fly back out. We're gonna go real recent at this point. We're gonna go to 2012. We're gonna go to a different part of the world and land in Afghanistan. And we're gonna land in the middle of the war on terror that the US declared. And at that point, many different things were happening at the same time. People are trying to save their homes and their lives as homes are being destroyed, as people are trying to find a way to navigate or live or survive, find children under broken rubble. And in the midst of all of that, children emerged out of that rubble. People came together to help pull each other out. Brown people came together to help each other survive and then continue a journey of migration across oceans and seas and deserts and lands to survive, to become refugees, a status that they never asked for, a status that they never wished for. But it was a way to survive. And as some became refugees, others continued to live in the midst of the war and in the midst of buildings falling around them, singing songs, eating food, returning to traditions to survive amidst an unknown, overwhelming storm of war. All right, take a breath again. I think, Erva, you got this next spot where we're landing.
Might be just a little bit forward of that time, Matthew, of your great-grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma interestingly enough, whose name was Sadie Coleman, had, let's see, we're in sort of probably 1914, 15, something like that. She already had probably 7 children at that point, my mother being one of them. And in her household in Baltimore, Maryland, she and her husband, Thomas Noah Coleman, lived along with his mother, whose last name was Beams. I don't remember, we only knew her as Nana Beams. And they had, oh my God, the house was full of kids of all ages. They were stepping stones. 5 boys, 2 girls. And at some point, my grandpa got ill with tuberculosis. He had had a good job working on the railroad, actually, as I think a Pullman porter. And he died of tuberculosis, leaving the family with no means of support. And what I understand from history, from my parents, my mom's history, and her telling me stories, and aunts and uncles, is that the state came to take the children away from my grandma. And she said, no, no way, you're taking my kids. Absolutely no way. And she supported herself in doing anything she could. She washed steps. If you know Baltimore, she washed white marble steps for people. She took in laundry. She did shopping. She did ironing, mostly for white folks and for money. And she sent her kids out to work as soon as they could. They went to school, but they also had jobs. Anything that they had to do to survive was done. And I think about that time and I think, wow, goodness, what might I have done? So take a breath, because I'm sure that Grandma was not the only one doing stuff like that. Whatever she could to survive and make sure that her family stayed together, was not taken by the state, but stayed together and survived. Just take a breath and breathe with me on that one.
All right, y'all, we're going to the 1750s. We are going to land in New Jersey, very close to Pendle Hill. And at that point, most of the Lenni Lenape, the indigenous people from the region, had been attacked and killed and had shrank to 3 communities that had welcomed in more communities from the region. Law after law had taken away land and rights. Raid after raid had killed children and families. Many had been forced onto reservations and to move. And in the 1750s, seeing even more attacks on the horizon and having lived through the deadly reality of reservations, the Lenni Lenape people disbanded their 3 communities that they had left and went into hiding. They integrated in with the communities around, hid their traditions, hid the songs and the dances, the prayers. And take a breath, both for the Lenni Lenape and for so many who have gone into hiding as a means of survival. Because I want to flash us forward to the late 20th century, where many Lenni Lenape people started to reemerge publicly in the region, to use those songs and dances to rebuild their community bonds, to ignore the need only for federal recognition and say, we are still here. And so for hundreds of years, those songs were mainly hidden, and yet they survived. Then I want to bring us to 1969. New York City. Take a breath and bring yourself in. We're going to the village, Greenwich Village, where transgender sex workers are surviving, are dealing with trying to find jobs, trying to dodge the cops, trying to avoid the laws that say they are illegal just by their existence as transgender. And they're finding a way to eat. They're finding a way to build community in the midst of that. Building networks of sex workers who are Black and brown mostly, who are coming together to help each other out. And when their rights got infringed upon, and when they felt they had been pushed too far, Martha P. Johnson picked up a brick and threw it at a cop to say no more. And then the days that followed were called riots, the Stonewall riots. Days of them, chaos in the streets, day after day after day. But those Puerto Rican trans folks, those Black trans folks, those Latinx trans folks, and the many others who were there knew how to survive. They brought their survival skills to the riot and changed history for LGBT people around the world. That's later in time, but even in the moment, to be able to stand up made a difference. Let's take a breath again. Soak in that history. Erva, where are we headed next?
I think we're headed next for folks to take their own journeys and do their own remembering. Because I'm sure that there are stories that you all have of survival, of adaptation during a time of chaos, of growth during a time of chaos, and maybe even learning something you didn't even think you would learn, or an outcome that actually was better than you could possibly have thought in times of chaos. We are resilient people. We have had to be, and we are still resilient. In spite of everything that's going on, we are still resilient people. So take a breath. I've got more stories. Matthew has more stories. But it's time now for your stories. Take some time to remember. And in that remembering, allow yourself also to honor the ancestors, whether they're far, far back, or maybe just aunts and uncles that are currently around, or parents. But take some time to write down and remember their stories and their resilience. Take a breath. We're going to leave you with that for a while now. Just breathe.
And if you find yourself lost, trying to figure out where to go, you can choose just one person or one moment in time that you remember. It could even be one that we've talked about, but a legacy that you feel yourself walking in the shadow of. Choose it, write it down, make it clear for yourself. We're going to play a little music, give you 2 minutes to be able to think. traveling, we can keep going. Keep on going on our end. I invite you to take the time you need to keep sharing, to reflect. Abruptly, the time machine's gonna stop, y'all. Welcome back. Welcome back to present day. Take a breath. A big one. Let it out.
Take a stretch.
Oh, stretch and yes. And for this person you chose, I want to invite you to think about, what did they do to survive chaos? You can write down that if you haven't already. And then the other layer we want to add is, what are the qualities that this ancestor, this person who came before you, even if they are living, what qualities of theirs do you want to carry as you survive in chaos, possibly thrive in chaos? Choose one quality. Try and choose one for now. And then I want to invite you to come up with a gesture, a simple movement that can help you remember to embody this. Like for me, when I'm thinking about this, a gesture I've used when I think about Marsha P. Johnson is, I pick up my heels and I put them down on the ground. This reminds me not to move in the face of things that tell me I should go. I don't always have to. So what is that simple gesture? You may want to try a couple out.
I think of my grandma, Sadie Coleman, with her hands on her hips, with her head cocked to one side, like, don't try me.
So whatever that position is, try it out now. Try it out. If you need some more time to find it, pause us. That's fine. Great. I'll pass it to you, Erva.
Take a breath again. We're big on breathing over here. And why are we big on breathing? This internal work is just as daunting as shoveling piles of whatever. So be aware of that this takes a bit of energy out of us. So that's why we're going to refresh your memories about breathing all the time, and even changing body position. If you need to stretch a bit, go ahead and stretch a bit. So with another deep breath, do you notice that there's a part of your body that even resonates with the, I would say, resilience that your ancestor had? Without judgment, it doesn't have to make sense. I know I said I put my hands on my hips. That's my grandma. Some of you might have other gestures or body knowings. And if you think, I'm going to turn it to you now for the
Great.
walking.
So
I see. Okay.
So next what we're going to do is we're going to bring back an activity that we did in the first session. And so if you want the actual full depth of it, that is that first session. It is a foundation. We're going to be building on that foundation next on this activity called Roots Down, Branches Up. And part of this activity comes from the natural world, which has chaos in it all the time. I'm going to share an image on the screen. Again, These are palm trees.
Whoa. Now there's some chaos.
Yeah, palm trees in a storm. And just look at those trees for a moment and see what you notice about where is moving on them and where is not moving on them. This is a question, unlike many, where there is a right answer. Often we won't have a right answer. But in this moment, the roots, the base of the tree, that trunk is barely moving, partially because it is rooted in the earth. And Erva, do you want to say anything more about those palm tree roots?
They go down. They go way down. They go down in the soil. And I think of, I know the tree is a living thing, but I give it some more life. And I think of it as that they're tenacious. They're like, this is my space. I'm staying right here. You can blow all you want up there, but this is my spot of earth. My roots are down here and they are holding on.
They survive amidst hurricanes.
Right.
They grow in hurricane regions.
Right.
So we want to learn from the palm tree. We want to learn about going and bringing our roots down to plant ourselves. And so to soak that in one more time, that image, take it in. And I'm going to stop this image from being visible. And Erva and I are going to lead you through a little activity. The first step of which is for you to choose a type of chaos that you right now are finding challenging to face. That's one part of chaos. If the pandemic is still going on while you're watching this video, that is but one part. Choose the one you want to choose to look at. And I invite you to not choose the hardest, the most difficult. Don't go there. Go to one that you're like, I want to get a little more flexibility, choice in relation to this chaos. And it might be possible. That's the sort of sweet spot we're going. We'd go for the hardest if we were in person. Since we're not live with you though, we want to provide some boundary around safety so that you don't go too far for yourself. So choose something that feels like a stretch that you want to work on. And that there's some possibility in too.
Do you want to do breathing?
Yeah, you can totally do that.
Okay, cool. Find yourself a good spot. Just be in that spot and imagine, if you will, that there's energy sort of in the bowl of your belly. That's the lower part, the bowl of your belly. You could think of it as a sap if you like, but it's going down your legs, coming out through your feet, and it's enlivening your roots. And your roots are going down, down, down into the earth. Finding the spots where they hold on, where they grab the bedrock, if you will. Finding the spots that are their safety and their connection to the earth. And imagine that you then suck up through those roots your connection, your steadiness, your sturdiness, your ability to withstand. Breathe it up. Just breathe it up. And find a place somewhere between your lower part of your chest and your belly. Find a place where that can land, if you will, where you can accumulate, make a reservoir of that energy that helps to keep you steady and grounded. So when the hurricane is blowing, your branches are blowing around, but your roots are steady. in the earth. Your roots are steady in your own strength. Your roots are steady in your own knowing. See where that actually fits for you in your body. Doesn't have to make sense. And just place your hand there. Just place your hand there. Or imagine an image there. Be creative. How's it feel to know that you have the ability to stand steady in the wind of chaos? You might take a minute or two to write a little something about that. Take your time.
Hmm. And as you have that thing written down, that reflection written down, go back to how it feels in your body. How does that strength of your roots feel? Now that you've gotten to write and know it a little more, feel it. And from this place, we're gonna start to welcome in the storm more, the chaos. So I wanna invite you to start moving your feet. Just move a little randomly. Just start shaking them a little, maybe lifting your heels up. And then you can start to move your knees and legs. You can also start to move your arms and chest. Let your torso start to get tossed around a little. We're not looking for rhythmic. We're looking for letting your body be a little more erratic in the tossing around. Like the palm tree. Let yourself feel that tossing. And remember to breathe as you do. And toss. And start to think about that chaos that you want to face as you're tossing about. You might want to give words or start to talk about the chaos out loud. Just keep going in it. No matter how weird it seems, toss and share. What does this chaos make you think about? What's in your mind as it happens? And pause. Listen for the voice of that ancestor that you identified earlier. However your body is feeling right now, listen to them. And if you can't hear their voice, return to that gesture you made. And breathe it in. Breathe in this person who you've invited to journey with you and their strength, mixing with your rooted strength. And when you hold your rootedness and their wisdom together, What new insight do you have about yourself and your relationship to this chaos? Something may be coming very clear and immediate. If so, fantastic for you. If not, I want to invite you to grab a pencil or pen near you and just write. Just write and write and write and write. We're going to take a minute for you to be in that. And remember to breathe. Just a few more seconds. And pause if you were writing. If you were writing, this is a great moment to look back at it, see if there are words or phrases that jump out, and circle them for yourself to come back to. This is just one way you can practice being in relation to chaos, to bring your body into the physical tossing. Throws off your balance a little bit, throws off your mind. And as you are noticing what is going on with you, we're starting to come towards the end of our session. So we want to ask you, I'm going to put an image up on the screen again. We want to ask you, how are you relating into the chaos in the world that you just identified now? Where are you? Are you lost in it? Do you feel very clear? Or somewhere in between? Whatever it is, make sure you identify it for yourself. Get specific. What we're trying to do is build the muscle, support the muscle that helps us see our choices in chaos. Give you a moment to just choose. And we want to offer this spectrum to you, partially because chaos is something where you're not always going to feel clear about every choice. If you found yourself all the way at a 1 just now, then you know a bit of what the level of work is that you might be up to right now. And that it's about building muscles that help us keep getting back and tools to help us get back. And so today we offered a couple different tools to support you to start to notice your choices when you find yourself lost in chaos. And so we have as we come towards the end of our time, we have a song to share with you. It's one of Erva's favorites, and it feels very appropriate for remembering that wherever we are in chaos, and however isolated we may feel, that there are others standing with us. So let's remember to rise to those moments so we can stand with those who also need us. I'm going to sing this song twice through. I'm actually going to put the words on the screen in case you want to sing along. Yeah, just sing it.
Erva don't sing.
Yeah.
Just so y'all know, Erva got a terrible singing voice.
But if you take a live class with Erva might sing. I'm going to tell you that. So, recorded, you're not going to hear it today. All right, here are the words. The song is called Stand Up. I'm going to sing it twice through. If you want to join me, fantastic at some point. And if you don't, please soak it in because we're going to sing it and dedicate it to you. So I'm gonna stand up Take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, can you hear freedom calling? Calling you to answer. Gonna keep on keeping on. So I'm gonna stand up. Take my people with me. Together we are going to a brand new home. Far across the river, together you hear them calling, calling you to answer. Gonna
keep on
keeping
on.
Y'all got Erva to sing.
It's true. I love the song.
I'll pass it to you, Erva, for our final. I invite everyone to take a breath. And thanks for joining us for this about an hour. If you hear noises in the background, that's my dog. It's time to go let her out. All right. Be well,
Bye-bye.
friends.